This is Plant-Based Briefing. Where do you get your protein? From PlantPureCommunities.org. And I'm Marian Erickson, and this is the curated content plant-based podcast, where I narrate a variety of articles on plant-based, compassionate, and eco-friendly living with permission in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. And I wanted to thank you for sharing this podcast or telling others about it. I can see the number of countries where people are listening has increased, and I think it's so cool to see those stats. So today I'm going to pick 3 countries with listeners to say hey to: Australia, Belgium, and Dominican Republic. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. Today's article is from PlantPureCommunities.org. They're a nonprofit working with local community organizations to educate people about the health and environmental benefits of a whole food, plant-based diet. They were formed after the release of the 2015 documentary PlantPure Nation. It demonstrates how political and economic interests suppressed the message of plant-based nutrition for decades, and it concludes with a call to action for people to form local plant-based support groups called pods. PlantPure Communities offers a wealth of resources to support these local groups, and I highly recommend the documentary PlantPure Nation. I'll put a link to it in the show notes as well. And now let's get to today's plant-based briefing. Where do you get your protein? From PlantPureCommunities.org. The first question people ask when they hear you're going plant-based or vegan is often, where do you get your protein? Due to highly successful marketing of the meat industry, protein has become synonymous with meat and animal products, leading many people to believe meat is the only source of protein. This info sheet was crafted to help people who are transitioning to a plant-based diet answer this question, where do you get your protein, which has been posed to everyone who has ever made the transition. This sheet also includes a list of links to nutrition information and responses from the experts to help debunk the protein myth. According to Dr. Alan Goldhammer, D.C., if a varied diet sufficient in calories is consumed, it is virtually impossible to get an inadequate protein intake. Even a diet devoid of concentrated sources of protein, such as animal products, nuts, and legumes, will meet optimum protein needs. According to Dr. Michael Greger, MD, those eating plant-based diets average about twice the requirement for protein. People are more likely to suffer from protein excess than protein deficiency. First, a few key factual statements. 1. Protein is an important nutrient required for the building, maintenance, and repair of the body's tissues. Amino acids, the building blocks of protein, can be synthesized by the body or ingested from food. There are 20 different amino acids in the food we eat, but our body can only make 11 of them. The 9 essential amino acids which cannot be produced by the body must be obtained from food. 2. There is more protein per calorie in black beans than there is in chicken breast. 3. Most Americans eat way too much protein, and rather than a protein deficiency, we suffer from a fiber deficiency. According to a 2008 systematic review by the Cleveland Clinic Journal of Medicine, 63 million Americans are hospitalized for constipation each year. These hospitalizations are largely due to fiber deficiency, whereas a diagnosis of protein deficiency is almost unheard of in America. 4. Protein content in human breast milk is sometimes described as, quote-unquote, extremely low, but it is not low at all. It is right where it needs to be. It is the natural level for humans. There is no reasonable scientific consensus to recommend protein consumption over the recommended dietary allowance. See below. 5. All natural foods, from lettuce to nuts, contain varying amounts of protein. 6. Protein combining is not necessary. There's no need to plan meals around complementary proteins. That is an old myth based on the idea that some plant foods are missing certain amino acids, rendering them as quote-unquote incomplete proteins. In 2009, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics released a paper stating that eating a variety of plant foods over the course of the day provides all the required amino acids. 7. High-protein diets will not help you lose weight. Calories are calories, whether they're from carbs or protein. Excess protein calories will not magically turn into muscle or burn fat. And 9. A 2016 study revealed that those that consumed the most animal protein compared to plant protein had a higher risk of death, particularly cardiovascular disease. How much protein do we need? The USDA Recommended Dietary Allowance, RDA, for protein suggests getting 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, which equates to about 8 to 10% of total calories from protein. A whole food plant-based diet of vegetables, fruits, legumes, grains, and tubers can easily provide the RDA of about 8 to 10% dietary protein. Most Americans consume significantly more protein than the RDA, getting 12 to 20% of their calories from protein. This is largely due to overconsumption of animal-based foods, and this high protein intake increases the risk for our most troublesome chronic diseases. You just listened to Where Do You Get Your Protein from PlantPureCommunities.org. And I'm Marian Erickson, and this is Plant-Based Briefing. And before I went plant-based and started researching all this stuff, I still believed what I was taught in grade school about combining proteins and incomplete plant proteins. So that was big news to me that was just based on old science or old information. And if you're interested in this topic, as always, I have a link to the original post in the show notes. And in that post, they reference 10 other great sources with videos, articles, interviews, etc. from sites like nutritionfacts.org, nutritionstudies.org, and pcrm.org. And I have 2 other episodes on this topic too, episodes 11 and 91, which I'll link in the show notes too. So please share this with anyone who thinks you can't be getting enough protein on a plant-based diet. And thanks for listening.